Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club for part 3 of our Estes Green Eggs build. The motor mount is dry and reinforced, so it is ready to go. This is definitely one that we need to test fit first because the burrs on the edge of this could potentially give us some trouble. So what we want to make sure is that it slides in nice and evenly, and that's really nice. So yeah, nothing needs to be done with that. We do need to check the instructions here to make sure that we're going to get this in the exact place. So the instructions suggest that we put glue. Essentially, we're putting it just past the edge of the upper part of the through the wall slit, and then just right at the edge on the back. The front or the near one is easy. We'll do that with the glue bottle itself. The second one, the farther one in, obviously we can't get the glue bottle that far in. That's fine. So we will do the old dowel approach, and then uh, we want ends even. So that's easy enough to do as well. This one is particularly easy to make sure that we got in the right place because we want to make sure that we don't see either of the ring mounts. It goes this way, but still easy enough. All right, so we will remove the instructions. We will grab our scrap onto which we will put some glue. There we go. And of course, we also need our dowel. Here's the dowel. Put that out of the way for a moment. This is just like brushing paint. So I'm just brushing it ever so slightly past the edge, the far edge of the through the fin slit. Actually have more than I need here, so I'm going to go back and paint over a couple spots that look like they could stand a little bit more glue. This is actually easy to do when you're working with a nice big tube like this. Now we're going to put the other bit of glue just in front of the slit. And there you have it. Okay. Typically, you want to line up the hook with the engine mount, or not the engine mount, the launch lug line. It doesn't really matter, truth be told. So in it goes. And we want the edge of this tube, or both tubes, to be flush with each other. So I'm just going to push with my finger until they're nice and lined up. Take a peek, make sure that you have things in line the way you want it. My hook isn't exactly lined up with the launch lug line, but again, it's not really important, so I'm not going to get bent out of shape about that. The one thing that we really do care about is that you can't see the back ring through the slit here, because if the ring is too far up, this won't fit in properly, and that would be a huge problem. So it looks like, just taking a peek here, I do need to kind of pull it back ever so slightly. Yeah, that looks okay. This one, the ring, as much as we try, the ring didn't quite get perpendicular to the engine mount. Or it's possible the tube's a little deformed too, but let's just do a little spot check here. I'm going to push this in. That looks fine. So there we go. This is actually a good idea to test fit all three slots to make sure that they're capable of supporting the fin. So that's great. Now, last thing, the instructions actually don't call for this, I don't think, unless I missed a line. Yeah, it doesn't seem to say it. But I am going to use some glue. It's going to go in there, and I'm going to just put it along the edges to give myself a nice fillet along the edge, because you can actually see there's some gaps between the ring, the centering ring, and the main rocket tube itself. So we're going to try to make that stronger. And basically, I can't get the nozzle of the glue bottle all the way down in there, but I can get it pretty close. And then I'm just going to kind of let gravity do some work for me. It's a little difficult around the hook. That gets in the way. There we go. And again, I would usually put my finger in there in order to smooth out the fillet, but can't reach. So I'm going to use my dowel here and just kind of smear it out a little bit. Not much, because my glue actually went on pretty nicely. I'm just going to smear it out a little bit to make sure there aren't any obvious holes. Okay. So the motor mount is properly installed at this point. That means it's time to put the fins on. So I'm going to grab the instructions here for a moment. You'll see why momentarily. I don't really need them to tell me what to do. However, there is a very nice alignment diagram in this set of instructions. Here we go. Right here. Right there. So obviously I can't put this flat, but like so, and then I will test to make sure that the fins are exactly where they should be. So that's good. All right, so how do we do this? Well, it's not really any different from normal, just attached to the tube mounting. So glue goes on. It's a little bit more glue, right, because there's some depth to it. So just get all the flat parts. There you go. You don't really, there's nothing really to be accomplished by putting it on the vertical parts because they're not going to touch anything in this model. There are some models that I've made where the through the fin construction actually does have the centering rings touch the vertical elements of the fin here. That's not the case here, but we'll put a little bit of glue on there. It's not going to hurt anything. As per usual, we are going to do the let it dry and then put a second coat on, a thin coat. The instructions seem to indicate that I should put glue on the side here as well. I haven't found any particular value in that because there's plenty of glue here, and I'm going to put a fillet on the edge anyway. So I don't think that's going to make a whole lot of difference one way or the other. Okay. Let the glue dry enough. It is kind of tricky to get the glue since the shape is so much more complex than just the usual flat shape. It is a little bit tricky to get it evenly distributed where it needs to go. That's what the dowel's for. All right, time to install. This is where I really hope that you test fit this first, because if it doesn't fit, you've got glue on here and nothing to do with it. So just gonna there we go, push it in like so. Now notice this is not the whole way in. The root is not the whole way attached. So I need to make sure that I've pushed it in the whole way. Even if I start to feel something, you want to make sure that the fin is all the way touching the body tube. Because yes, the root anchor is deep within, is touching the motor mount, but you also want it to glue to the edge as well. You don't want any gaps in there. So I'm going to push and hold for 30 seconds or so to give the glue a good shot at anchoring first. Now, one of the problems that you can get with through the fin is if you push the fin in and it kind of snags along the edge here, it can kind of bow the body tube around. Obviously, we don't want that, but just have a look and make sure that you didn't deform anything as you push the fin in. Now, I can see, even though I've been holding this for a while, the fin very much wants to spring away here, so that it's not set very well. And part of the reason is I'm checking my alignment. It's not very straight. That's probably part of the problem. So I'm going to mess with the alignment there a little bit to try to get it straighter, and then I'm going to hold it for a bit longer. Getting these, so the fin isn't going to fall over. That's certainly an advantage of through the fin construction, or through the tube construction, in addition to the strength that it adds. But if there's a disadvantage, it is harder to get the fin flush against the body tube just the way you want it. Oh, and by the way, so I just squeezed there a little bit. I noticed that what I was talking about, the tube had bowed over a little bit, but giving a little squeeze popped it out. So that ought to help a little bit getting the the glue to hold a little bit better. Ultimately, it is entirely possible that even if I do this perfectly, the fin will pull away a little bit from the tube, even before the glue completely sets. That's possible. That's also part of the reason why we put fillets on things, because fillet can address that problem. It's not as good as having it really glued properly, but the fillet can make up for some miscues. All right, that looks better. I don't think it's perfect, but it's better. So we'll move on to the next one. I'm going to try to do all three of these on camera, even though it's somewhat repetitive, because the last little step is worth seeing too. Okay, so same basic deal. Our usual technique. Put some glue on, spread it thin, allow it to begin to set, and then apply the second layer of glue. It looks like, and just eyeballing my model here, it looks like the fins are going to sit low enough, that they're swept back enough so that this should be able to stand up and not have the motor mount hook get in the way, but we shall see. It's going to be close. That's kind of nice. Personally, I like it when the rocket can stand up without any extra assistance from a ring of tape or something like that. All right. Second layer of glue. Trying to keep this as thin as possible. You don't need a whole lot. There we go. Okay. Lovely. Okay. Next fin goes in like, actually I want to turn it the other way. I'd rather work with my right hand. Right in front of me. There we go. This one I definitely deformed the tube pushing it in, so I'm kind of squeezing to pop it back out. All right. And same deal as usual. I'll hold it there till it starts to set. Actually, I'm going to clean it up because I got some big old glue beads. Don't want to have them long term. And you can see again, it's pulling away. I obviously don't want that, so I'm going to have to push and hold till the glue sets. All of these, of course, are going to need a fillet. I'm not going to worry about that until I get the alignment right, and it's generally dry. Overall, this looks reasonably good so far. One advantage as well of having the through the tube construction is that you can wiggle the tube or the fin back and forth, and where you get the most resistance, that's probably where the fin is supposed to be, because that's the farthest into the cavity of the tube it can get. So if you feel like, you just before you let it go, if you just wobble it back and forth a wee bit, you can probably feel where vertical is, which you can't do under normal circumstances without through the fin construction. Now this is definitely pulling off the top. I don't like that. So I'm going to have to hold it longer. This, of course, is not a problem you have with regular body fin construction, non-through the fin, but it's definitely something we can address. It's not a big deal. It just takes a little bit of patience. And it really does not want to adhere. It's probably because there's not enough glue in there. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue, kind of like a proto fillet here. I'm going to try to push it in with the dowel. I'll put some on the other side as well. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I suspect that for whatever reason, because I did kind of wiggle the fin around when I put it down, it could be that there wasn't a proper amount of glue at the very tip, which made it harder for the glue to adhere. It's also the case that there's some force, kind of leverage force, that's pulling this tip away, and that's making it all the more difficult. All right. So I'm just going to leave that for the time being. I'm going to have to hold that later. The glue hasn't set. It's probably not going to set for another 5 minutes or so. So let's put the last fit on. We can at least get started on that. And I can worry about the adhesion of that second fin a little bit more once this fin is also in place and we can check for alignment. I'm actually going to put this down for a moment and have a look at what's going on with this. So it looks, part of it is it doesn't look terribly straight, so that might be part of the problem. The other part might be that it's pinched. Kind of hard to say, but again, if you hold things long enough, the glue will set, and then you won't have to hold it any longer. It is kind of tedious because I really don't want this first fin to be rock hard, so I can't adjust it if it's not in the right place. So, well, that seems to have made some difference a little bit. Anyway. Okay. Last little bit of glue. Okay. Probably have too much glue on this fin, but it's okay. I'm going to move the instructions for the time being. Obviously, I need to be careful here because if I push on the ground, it's going to completely screw up the alignment that I have on these fins, so I don't want that. Right. And it goes. And again, I am pulling the fin, or the body, with the fin. There we go. That's much better. Smooth this out. This one actually seems, well, it still has a gap as well. They all seem to want to have a bit of a gap. That seems to be a common issue with through the fin. Either the front or the back. Usually the front just really, really, really wants to not quite be in the right place. All right. Now, the glue is not set, but I want to check my alignment here. So I'm going to try to place the rocket centered on the little diagram and then check all the fins to see how close. So these back two look really good. This one is off by just the slightest little bit, but otherwise that looks pretty good. So another advantage through the fin is that it's really, you certainly can screw up the alignment. That is absolutely true, but it's harder. And most of the time your initial application, like where you put it when you attach the fin, is going to be pretty good. Because like I said, you can feel that resistance right where the vertical is, where the fin ought to be. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with this. We'll get rid of that for the time being. Again, I want to check to make sure that the this one was pulling, leading edge was pulling a bit away again. The other ones, they're all kind of in the same boat, and they all want to pull away a little bit. So just gotta kind of put a little bit of pressure on them for a little bit. This is probably a good place to wrap things up for now. So off camera, I'm going to apply the glue fillet to the joints of the fins that I've applied. Once they've set, I also need to put a fillet along the launch lug. Other than that, though, most of the construction is done, so it's finishing at this point. I need to prepare, wood fill and seal the fins before painting and then prime it. This one, so because my kit came in a bulk pack, there's a big picture on the big box full of rockets, but my individual packet did not have one. So this is a place where you go on the internet and see what the design color scheme looks like, because the instructions aren't particularly specific about that. But before that happens, we'll of course have to get the fins ready for painting. So that's what we'll do in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you another time.